Welcome to another interesting business studies class. My name is Emmanuel Wido. In today's class, we are looking at the topic communication in the theme Commerce, the Heart of Business. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to state the meaning of communication, mention means of communication, explain each means of communication, state the importance of communication in business, and finally, identify the services provided by communication agencies. The activities of the world today is aided by how smooth information is transferred from person to person. A breakdown in information transfer will cause most businesses who have the potential to survive to fail. This is why communication is important. So as we go ahead in this class, we will be looking at the importance of communication in business. What then is communication? Communication refers to the act of giving and receiving information. It is also the act of conveying meaning from one entity to another. Now, there are various types of communication. This include verbal, non-verbal, written, and visual. The image here tells us the types of communication we have and the ways they are expressed. Now you see that for verbal we have face-to-face communication and telephone communication. When you're looking at non-verbal, you're looking at body language and gesture. When you consider written communication, we are looking at books and magazines, emails. And lastly, when we are looking at visuals or visualization, we are looking at graphs and charts, maps. So let's explain these types of communication by looking at them one after the other. Now, verbal communication refers to the use of spoken language to transfer information from one person to another. What I am doing right now is what you can regard as verbal communication. I'm using spoken language to teach you business studies. Now, verbal communication allows people to get clarification on confusing ideas immediately. That means as I am communicating with someone else and the person gets confused, he or she can ask questions to get clarification on the matter discussed. Let's proceed looking at the second type of communication, which is non-verbal communication. When we are looking at non-verbal communication in business, we are looking at the use of body language, gestures, facial expressions in the transfer of information from one person to another. So when you meet someone and you greet the person good morning and the person waves, we could see waving as a sign of greeting. That means rather than the person responding to the greeting using spoken language, the person chooses to wave. That is also a sign of communication. You do something that requires an applause and people clap for you. That's a way of telling you, well done. Now, there are various ways through which we can communicate using non-verbal communication technique. Such ways are via appearance, eye contact, facial expressions like I mentioned before, territoriality, time, environment, and posture. Now you find out that you're in the sitting room and a visitor comes in and mommy or daddy looks at you. Since you understand what the eye means, you quickly stand up and leave the sitting room. The eye contact daddy and mommy gave you was an indication that you should leave the sitting room. So because you understand what that eye contact actually means, you have the knowledge that you need to leave the sitting room. Daddy has communicated to you without the visitor knowing. Let's proceed in this class by looking at the third type of communication. Written communication is the act of writing, typing, or printing symbols like letters and numbers to convey information. So when you type a letter or you read a novel, a magazine, you're actually communicating with the author of the book. That means you're reading what the author of the book has written down. That's written communication. And lastly, we have visual communication. This has to do with the act of using photographs, art, drawings, sketches, charts, and graphs in conveying information. Now, you want to go to a certain location you're not too conversant with. You don't know the terrain, you don't know the area. With the use of a map, you're able to identify routes, streets that could lead you to exactly where you want to get to. So when you're using maps, you're actually communicating. You're not asking questions. The map is now your guide to getting to your location. When we look at communication, there are means through which we communicate. These means are the various ways through which information, either written or oral, is passed through from one point to another. So what are these forms of communication? The first of them is the use of post. We also have the use of telephone. We have the use of the World Wide Web, which I will explain later. And then we have the use of courier services. Now, the image you see here tells you some of the various means of communication. You have your telephone device here. You have your computer system. You have your television. You have your radio, and you have newspapers. Now, let's look at what post talks about when we are looking at means of communication. Post is the process of linking people and organization at different places and carrying and transferring letters, documents, parcels, and money. The postal service, which is usually run or controlled by government, please take key note of the word government when it has to do with postal service, is considered as cheapest, easiest, popular, convenient, and reliable means of communication in spite of the development of other means of communication. The second is telephone communication. This has to do with the use of mobile phones in communicating. That means you pick up your mobile device, you dial someone's number, and you're able to communicate, you're able to transfer information from your end to the person's end. The third is the use of World Wide Web. Now, this has to do with the use of computers which have internet access. When you're using internet, it means you're sending information in the form of mails from one computer system which has internet connection, take note, to another computer system which has an internet connection. That means in this case, information transfer is not possible without internet connection. So let's look at the fourth and final means of communication for this class, which is courier services. Courier services are services that are controlled by private companies. When we are discussing postal services, I told you that they are controlled by government. But when you're looking at courier services, you should remember that they are controlled by private companies. They also offer services such as sending letters, parcels, gifts, and money from various ends. That means if you do not want to follow the postal service as a means of communication, you could use courier services in sending your letters, your parcels from one location to another. However, courier services are considered more expensive than postal services because they are being controlled and managed for profit-making purposes. Let's proceed in this class by looking at the importance of communication. The first importance of communication is that it aids managerial efficiency. When a manager is able to communicate effectively with his or her staff, such communication builds up confidence in the manager and is able to manage his unit effectively. That means communication has given the manager an advantage to become effective in his managerial skills. The second importance of communication is that it has the ability to enhance morale and relations. This is because when you're able to communicate effectively with someone, you build up confidence and a good relationship with the person. Now imagine you speaking with somebody who is rude. When you're speaking with such a person, you become intimidated, you become insulted, because in this case, communication is not effective. But when you're speaking with somebody who is polite, you have this cordial relationship with the person. Let's proceed by looking at other importance of communication. Another importance of communication is that it aids effective leadership. Good leaders are good communicators. An efficient two-way communication helps in effective communication between people. That means when a good leader who is polite has a conversation with his or her followers, such followers will have the confidence and ability to obey the leader, because he is not only speaking efficiently, but he is polite while doing so. Another importance of communication is that it provides mutual trust and confidence. Mutual trust and confidence via communication between workers and employers of labor is made possible through effective communication. When I walk up to my manager and while communicating with my manager, he is rude to me, I won't have the confidence to go back to him when I have a need. The rude nature of the manager has scared the employee from approaching the manager whenever he or she has issues to be addressed. The last importance of communication for this class is that it improves decision-making process. The success of decision-making is aided by good communication. If we have disagreement while trying to take a stand on a certain topic, it will delay the decision-making process. But if we as a team are able to communicate effectively and efficiently, then we can come to a quick conclusion on the path to follow while solving a problem. Let's proceed in this class by looking at various communication agencies. Now, what are communication agencies? These are agencies that use the means of communication we talked about in the transfer of information. Some of these agencies are television stations, which transmit information in the form of audio visuals. So when you're looking at your television set, you see the man casting the news. You also hear him saying or reading sentences. In this case, you are seeing the person and you're also hearing what the person is actually reading. Examples of television stations include Nigerian Television Authority (NTA), Channels Television, African Independent Television (AIT), etc. Another agency that aids communication are radio stations. They transmit information in the form of audio alone. That means you're not seeing the person giving you the information. All you do is you hear. While television stations gives you the ability to see and hear, radio stations give you the ability to only hear what is being read. Such radio stations include Radio Nigeria, Rhythm FM. The third agency that aids communication is the one we call postal and courier agencies. These agencies help in the door-to-door delivery of packages, letters, and parcels. Some of them include the Nigerian Postal Service (NIPOST), DHL, FedEx, etc. The final communication agency are telecommunication agencies. They allow us send information using mobile devices such as the mobile phones, the landlines, and the rest of them. These agencies include 9Mobile, MTN, Airtel, and so on. We have looked at communication from its meaning to the various agencies that help us in communicating effectively with one another. Let's take a quick summary of what we have learned in this class. In this class, I told you that communication refers to the giving and receiving of information. I also told you that there are 4 basic types of communication, and they include verbal communication, non-verbal communication, written communication, and visual communication. We also learned that verbal communication is the use of language to transfer information through speaking or sign language. I also told you that visual communication is the act of using photographs, arts, drawings, sketches, charts, and graphs to convey information. Going on, I told you that the means of communication are the various ways through which information, either written or oral, can be passed from one place to another. We also learned that some of the means of communication are telephone and the World Wide Web. We further learned that post as a means of communication is the process of linking people and organizations of different places by carrying and transferring letters, documents, parcels, etc. And lastly, we learned that communication encourages mutual trust and confidence in a working environment. I hope you're not in a hurry to leave this class, as I am about to test how much you have learned in our class today. Are you ready for my test questions? Let's go on. Question number 1. Dash refers to the act of conveying meanings from one entity or group to another through the use of mutually understood signs, symbols, and alphabets. Option A, transportation. Option B, communication. Or option C, teaching. The right answer to this question is option B, communication. Question number 2. Dash refers to the act of writing, typing, or printing symbols like letters and numbers to convey information. Option A, non-verbal communication. Option B, written communication. Or option C, visual communication. If you picked option B, you are absolutely correct. Written communication refers to the act of writing, typing, or printing symbols like letters and numbers to convey information. This is where we draw the curtain in our class today. I hope you can define communication, state the various types of communication, and list agencies that aid communication. Until I see you in another interesting business studies class. Bye-bye.